Lorenzo was used to people doing what he asked. The fact that she was being so stubborn about this, when she was so clearly in the wrong, annoyed him, and it was an effort for him to remain polite. Though he let his tone cool by 20 degrees. "Madam, I'm afraid the house and grounds simply aren't open to visitors until this afternoon, which means that right now you're trespassing." "Am I now?" Those sharp blue eyes were filled with insolence. "The file, please," he prompted. She rolled her eyes, took the camera strap from round her neck, changed the camera settings, and showed the screen to him, so that he could first of all see the photograph she'd taken, and then see her press the button to delete the file from her camera's storage card. "Okay, one deleted picture. Happy now?" "Yes, thank you." "Right." She inclined her head. "Little tip from me. Try smiling in the future, sweetie, because you catch an awful lot more flies with honey than you do with vinegar." And then she simply walked away, leaving Lorenzo feeling as if he was the one in the wrong. The man was probably one of Gus's friends. He looked as if he were about the same age as Lottie's elder brother, and maybe he'd meant to be helpful. He'd clearly been trying to protect the family's privacy. Indigo knew she should probably have explained to him that she was a family friend who happened to be working on the house's restoration, not a trespassing tourist. Then again, it was none of his business what she was doing there, and his stick-in-the-mud attitude had annoyed her, especially when he'd accused her of being a paparazzo. She'd only taken his photograph because she'd seen him striding around the grounds, scowling, and he'd looked like a dark angel. Something she could have used for work. It had been a moment's impulse, an expression on his face that had interested her, attracted her, made her wonder what he'd look like if he smiled. But the way he'd reacted to her taking that photograph, snarling about people taking his photo without permission, anyone would think he was an A-list celeb on vacation, instead of some dull city banker. What an idiot. Indigo rolled her eyes again and headed for the house. Right now, work was more important. They were taking the window out of the library today and setting it in the workroom Gus had put aside for her in Edensfield Hall. Indigo had already made a short video for the hall's website to explain what was happening with the window, and she'd promised to write a daily blog with shots of the work in progress, so the tourists could feel that they were part of the restoration process. And she didn't mind people coming over and asking her questions while she was working. She loved sharing her passion for stained glass. And the stranger with the face of a fallen angel, well, he could do whatever he liked. Lorenzo was still slightly out of sorts from his encounter with the paparazzo who claimed she wasn't by the time he went downstairs for dinner. When he walked into the drawing room, he was shocked to see her there among the guests. Except this time she wasn't wearing a shapeless black top and trousers. She was wearing a bright scarlet shift dress, shorter than anyone else's in the room. And it was teamed with red shoes that were glossier, strappier, and had a higher heel than anyone else's in the room. "Look at me," her outfit screamed, as if anyone would be able to draw their eyes away from her, especially as her hair was no longer pulled back in the severe hairdo of this afternoon. Now it was loose and cascaded over her shoulders in a mass of ebony ringlets. All she needed was a floor-length green velvet and silk dress, and she would have been the perfect model for a Rossetti painting. Lorenzo was cross with himself for being so shallow, but at the same time the photographer was also one of the most beautiful women he'd ever met. He couldn't help acting on the need to know who she was and what she was doing here. He just about managed a few polite words with Gus before drawling, "So,